Shalom. All praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone, who have taught me the truth as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, beginning with the 144,000 prophets, and Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Ratazah. This lesson is edifying and informative. It is only a matter of time until America's allies, according to biblical prophecy, betrays America, Babylon the Great. For as it is written here in Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, and the 10 horns, which the 10 horns represents the EU, nations which thou sawest upon the beast represents the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. And so the 10 horns, the EU nations, or rather the nations that are a part of the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, which represents NATO, and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire, these shall hate the whore, which the whore is America, Babylon the Great, that rides upon the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, and shall make her desolate. How? By shooting nuclear missiles upon her to destroy her, and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that is how America's allies within the EU and the NATO will destroy her by shooting nuclear missiles upon her to make her desolate. In the news from the RT, Germany needs Nord Stream 2, AFDMP. Resuming energy flows from Russia will help stave off deindustrialization, Stefan Kotry says. Germany needs to bring the surviving branch of the Nord Stream pipeline online and resume gas imports from Russia. Bundestag, or Bundestag MP, Stefan Kotry told TASS news agency on Saturday. According to the lawmaker, abandoning Russian energy and replacing it with alternate gas supplies has been a big mistake, and this particular line right here is what inspired me to do this lesson. Replacing Russian energy with alternate gas supplies, which is US LNG, has been a big mistake, and so eventually America's allies within NATO and the EU will realize that if they have not already shot themselves, as they would say, in the foot by following and listening to America. In fact, you barely hear any news about the war in Ukraine now. since all the focus has been shifted to the Middle East. It's as if America has abandoned Europe. So, how do you think America's allies will look at that and feel? Now, of course, they're all in cahoots, but eventually the Lord's going to put that spirit on these Edomites to become even more divided, and eventually say, you know what, this whole betrayed us. This whole has only made us worse off. By listening to her, we have destroyed our own economies, respectively. We have made the lives of our people, of our respective nations, difficult than ever before. We have destabilized our industries. These are just some examples of things that they might rationalize within themselves to influence their decision. Now, you understand ultimately, the ultimate influencing will be Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua that will put that spirit upon them on the left hand to betray the whore, because it is a part of the biblical prophecy. It says, what the Chancellor Olaf Scholz is happy about is devastating for companies and private consumers. Kotri, who was always a member of the German Parliamentary Committee on Energy and Climate Protection, said, referring to Scholz's earlier praise of Germany's efforts to reduce dependency on Russian energy, but this has only imploded Germany. This has not helped Germany. In fact, Germany was better off with Russian oil, cheap Russian oil, but now they have to pay for expensive LNG from the US and UK. So how could this be an achievement? How could this be something to be happy about or praise? Even the people see it. And even they themselves in the power seat, they know. But eventually things will happen that will cause them to become divided. And as it is written, a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. The surge in gas prices leads to the deindustrialization of Germany. And not just Germany, but the entire Eurozone. To ensure competitiveness, Germany should agree to purchase gas through the surviving branch of the Nord Stream pipeline. And let us recall that they still have not so-called caught the culprit or culprits behind the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines. But those that use their heads for more than a hat rack know and understand who did it. Go bono, who stands to benefit. So these nations, they know. And eventually they're going to get tired. And they're going to start to bitch and blame the whore. Recall talks of Frexit in the past, France's exit out of the EU. We had Brexit happen, Britain's exit out of the EU. For a moment, there'd also been, I believe, a discussion of Italy or some one of the other EU nations. I forgot that warned that they may exit the EU. And that reminds me of, and not only should it remind me, but it should also remind us of the prophecy in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, concerning the toes mixed with iron and miry clay, okay, falling apart, partly strong and partly weak. And they've been breaking apart gradually over the process of time. Okay, it says, Nord Stream is a gas route between Russia and Germany that runs through the Baltic Sea. It consists of the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, each comprising of two separate branches Germany once received Russian gas through Nord Stream 1, while Nord Stream 2 was never certified due to bureaucratic setbacks. Both pipelines were damaged and shut down last year in an incident widely considered to be sabotage. As a result, Germany lost direct access to Russian gas, which once covered around half of the country's energy needs. One of the two branches of Nord Stream 2 survived, but the German authorities have not resumed the certification process due to political tensions with Moscow over the Ukraine conflict. According to Coulter, this needs to change as Germany currently pays much more for gas from alternate sources that it used to pay for Russian gas. Russian gas is profitable and environmentally friendly, which is not the case with our current suppliers. Now, who are their current suppliers? I wonder who their current suppliers are. Think about it. Primarily liquefied natural gas from the U.S. So they're saying that the LNG from the U.S. is not environmentally friendly for them, and is not profitable because they're paying a whole lot more for it. Germany pays 3 to 4 times more for these supplies. See that? Who stood to benefit from the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines? But gas from the U.S. produced by the fracking method does not meet our environmental standards, he stated. So how the hell could this have been something to be happy about or to boast as being an achievement? Okay? This is why the statement was made. What the Chancellor Olaf Scholz is happy about is devastating for companies and private consumers. And they know this. But obviously they have to continue to play that political game, so to speak. And not just Germany is suffering, but again, the rest of the EU nations in the Eurozone. Okay, because here in this article, major gas supplier issues warning to EU. The region's energy market will be volatile this winter, Equinor has warned. The natural gas market in the European Union will remain turbulent in the coming winter, even with the bloc's storage facilities nearly full, Norwegian energy giant Equinor has warned. Gas reserves in the EU are now at 97.89% capacity, exceeding the bloc's target of 90% by November 1st and providing a cushion ahead of the heating season. However, expectations of increased competition with Asia for LNG could push prices up. Simple supply and demand, right? Equinor CEO Andrés Opedal told the Energy Intelligence Forum in London, "We actually expect the market to be quite volatile over the winter," he said. "We'll do everything we can to make sure that we maximize gas to come through the pipes, but Europe, will be dependent on the LNG supply, which they're paying 3 to 4 times for, in contrast to cheap Russian gas that they were paying for before." Opedal added, "Equinor is the largest gas producer on the Norwegian continental shelf and the second largest gas supplier in Western Europe. Global gas prices surged to all-time highs last year after the EU reduced purchases from Russia, leading to record imports of LNG and efforts to cut consumption in the bloc, especially by industry. LNG became the main source of gas for the bloc, accounting for up to 35% of total imports. To offset gas supply shortfalls, the EU has resorted to taking in high-priced shipments of LNG from the US and Qatar, and increased pipeline imports from Norway and Azerbaijan, if I pronounce that correctly. However, even with storage almost full, EU imports are insufficient to cover demand, according to Equinor. Earlier this month, the Association of German Gas Storage Operators, INES, warned that the bloc's most industrialized economy will continue to be at risk of gas shortages until 2027, unless it accelerates the construction of additional LNG terminals, extra gas storage capacity, or pipelines. This concludes the article. So, Germany, including the rest of the EU nations within the bloc, are suffering because of we know who. And eventually, according to biblical prophecy, they will betray the whore. Okay? That's why I read Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, which reads again, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." So these nations in the European Union will betray America, Babylon the Great, and shoot nuclear missiles upon her to destroy her with fire. Obadiah, verse 7, "All the men of that confederacy, all the men that were in agreement with America, Babylon the Great, between the EU and NATO, have brought thee even to the border." What border is that? The Valley of Jehoshaphat in the Middle East. And right now, the least of the flock is drawing America, Babylon the Great out into the Middle East. Okay? For the purpose of the Thorwald's woe, which comes quickly, which is already here, but it's a process. But before it really kicks off, the MOTB must first be mandated across the globe. So we are very, very close. Okay, we're right there at the door. It says, "The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee." All the men, all the nations that have performed traffic, which means trade with America, Babylon the Great, will deceive America, Babylon the Great, including our own allies, and prevail against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him, because these Edomites are blinded by their pride. Okay? Because the Lord has given them the blessing of the sword, which has made them extremely proud. Okay? So, that concludes the articles here in the RT. In concluding this lesson, I will read this last article here from CryptoPotato.com, which reads, "European Central Bank moves forward on CBDC project after concluding 2-year research phase." On October 18, the ECB governing council stated that it had decided to move to the next phase of the digital euro project. This is another step towards the MOTB. The move into the preparation phase for a potential European CBDC follows the completion of a 2-year investigation phase. The preparation stage will start on November 1st and will initially last 2 years. It will involve finalizing the digital euro rulebook, selecting technology providers, and testing. This is from European Central Bank on X, formerly known as Twitter. "Our governing council has decided to move to the next phase of the digital euro project. In November 2023, we will start laying the foundation for the possible issuance of a digital euro. A decision on issuing a digital euro will come at a later stage," which everything is already laid out. They're just doing it in the format of gradualism to make it seem to the people that, oh, this is something that we just came to an agreement that we'll move forward with, and we need your so-called support, validation, so-called approval. Okay, nothing more than gradualism. Okay, digital euro in 2 years, After the preparation phase, which is due to be finalized at the end of 2025, the ECB will decide whether to move forward with actually issuing a CBDC, which it will, okay? Because the MOTB will be the technology, okay, the device that these devils will be utilizing their CBDC through. Because remember, no man will be able to buy or sell save he that had the mark. This decision would come only after the EU legislative process is complete, which is likely to take it into the following year. The launch of the preparation phase is not a decision on whether to issue a digital euro, it confirmed. Ultimately, the EU's legislative bodies, the EU Parliament and Council of the EU member states, will decide whether a digital euro will be launched or not, said Circle's Director of EU Strategy and Policy, Patrick Henson, who added, a legislative process is currently ongoing and discussions on the EU Commission proposal have already started, but it will probably take some time until after the EU elections in June 2024, until the EU institutions will vote on the topic. The proposed digital euro would be a digital form of cash, allowing private offline payments. It would be widely accessible, free for basic use, and offer the highest privacy standards according to the announcement. We need to prepare our currency for the future, said Christine Lagarde, president of the ECB, before adding, it would coexist alongside physical cash, which will always be available, leaving no one behind. Users would be able to access digital euro services through banks or a euro system app. Those without bank accounts could use a card from a public entity like a post office. CBDC latest outlook. Earlier this month, the Bank of International Settlements (BIS) and the Central Bank of France, Singapore, and Switzerland announced the successful completion of a new CBDC initiative called Project Mariana. According to the Atlantic Council CBDC tracker, 11 countries have deployed a CBDC, most of them in the Caribbean aside from Nigeria. Nevertheless, several U.S. senators are vehemently opposed to a CBDC. That's the illusion that they have to create, claiming that it will erode financial privacy and enable state surveillance. And some of these devils are genuinely divided. Some of them aren't with the agenda, while others are. And as it is written, a house, a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. So this is just another step towards the global introduction and subsequent mandation of the MOTB. Okay, this is the RFID microchip. In Europe, it is known as the NFC chip implant. It is also known as the biochip implant. The word bio means living or alive. It is also known as the brain chip implant. Okay, i.e. Elon Musk's Neuralink, among others. So with that, I conclude this lesson. Abu Radza, it has been edifying and informative to the elect. To you I say shalom until the next Lord's willing.